We will also deal with madmen who harbor and develop and want to use weapons of mass destruction. I made a decision to call upon the international community to join us in holding Saddam Hussein to account. The gathering threat of Iraq must be confronted fully and finally. Today's vote also sends a clear message to the Iraqi regime. It must disarm and comply with all existing UN resolutions, or it will be forced to comply. Now we're beginning to understand the true threat. In order to keep the peace, Mr. Hussein and the world community must work to disarm him. And if they won't, I will lead a coalition of nations, like-minded nations, to send a world that we long for peace, send a message we long for peace in this world. And we will not let the world's worst leaders threaten, blackmail, hurt America, our friends and allies, with the world's worst weapons. We owe this to our children. We cannot ignore history. We must not ignore reality. We must do everything we can to disarm this man before he hurts one single American. At this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger. I give this pledge to the citizens of Iraq. We are coming with a mighty force to end the reign of your oppressors. We are coming to bring you food and medicine and a better life. And we are coming, and we will not stop, we will not relent until your country is free. The dying regime in Iraq may try to bring terror to our shores.
I believe in being strong and resolute and determined. And I will hunt down and kill the terrorists wherever they are. But we also have to be smart, Jim. And smart means not diverting your attention from the real war on terror in Afghanistan against Osama bin Laden and taking it off to Iraq, where the 9/11 Commission confirms there was no connection to 9/11 itself in Saddam Hussein, and where the reason for going to war was weapons of mass destruction, not the removal of Saddam Hussein. This president has made, I regret to say, a colossal error of judgment. And judgment is what we look for in the President of the United States of America.
I was hoping diplomacy would work. I understand the serious consequences of committing our troops into harm's way. It's the hardest decision a president makes. So I went to the United Nations. I didn't need anybody to tell me to go to the United Nations. I decided to go there myself. And I went there hoping that once and for all, the free world would act in concert to get Saddam Hussein to listen to our demands. They passed a resolution that said disclose, disarm, or face serious consequences. I believe when an international body speaks, it must mean what it says. But Saddam Hussein had no intention of disarming.
This president I don't know if he sees what's really happening on there, but it's getting worse by the day. More soldiers killed in June than before, more in July than June, more in August than July, more in September than in August. And now we see beheadings, and we got weapons of mass destruction crossing the border every single day, and they're blowing people up. And we don't have enough troops there.
First of all, what my opponent wants you to forget is that he voted to authorize the use of force, and now says it's the wrong war at the wrong time at the wrong place. I don't see how you can lead this country to succeed in Iraq if you say wrong war, wrong time, wrong place. What message does that send our troops? What message does that send our allies? What message does that send the Iraqis?
They just decided the time for diplomacy is over and rushed to war without planning for what happens afterwards. Now, he misled the American people in his speech when he said, we will plan carefully. They obviously didn't. He misled the American people when he said we'd go to war as a last resort. We did not go as a last resort. And most Americans know the difference. Now, this has cost us deeply in the world.
I decided the right action was in Iraq. My opponent calls it a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. He said I misled on Iraq. I don't think he was misleading when he called Iraq a grave threat in the fall of 2002. I don't think he was misleading when he said that it was right to disarm Iraq in the spring of 2003. I don't think he misled you when he said that, you know, anyone who doubted whether the world was better off without Saddam Hussein in power didn't have the judgment to be president. I don't think he was misleading. I think what is misleading is to say you can lead and succeed in Iraq if you keep changing your positions. To think that another round of resolutions would have caused Saddam Hussein to disarm, disclose, is ludicrous in my judgment. It just shows a significant difference of opinion. We tried diplomacy. We did our best. He was hoping to turn a blind eye, and yes, he would have been stronger had we not dealt with him. He had the capability of making weapons, and he would have made weapons.
35 to 40 countries in the world had a greater capability of making weapons at the moment the president invaded than Saddam Hussein. And while he's been diverted with 9 out of 10 active duty divisions of our Army either going to Iraq, coming back from Iraq, or getting ready to go, North Korea's got nuclear weapons, and the world is more dangerous. Iran is moving towards nuclear weapons, and the world is more dangerous. Darfur has a genocide. The world is more dangerous. I'd have made a better choice. Nothing. With respect to North Korea, 2 years, this administration didn't talk at all to North Korea. While they didn't talk at all, the fuel rods came out, the inspectors were kicked out, the television cameras were kicked out, and today there are 4 to 7 nuclear weapons in the hands of North Korea. That happened on this president's watch.
The world is hearing the voice of freedom from the center of the Middle East. Freedom. Democratic Iraqi government. Their sacrifices were made in a vital cause of freedom, peace in a troubled region, and a more secure future for us all. And if I didn't think we could succeed, I wouldn't have our troops there. As the commander-in-chief of our military, I cannot commit U.S. troops into combat unless I'm convinced it's worth it, important to the security of the United States, and we can meet our objectives.